All right, Shabbosai, good morning. Let us begin by thanking Baruch Hashem, all of our sponsors for this morning. To thank our annual TALMUD Torah sponsor for Tafshin Pehei, the Tilson Family of Yisroel, for dedicating all the Shir and Drushos this year as a zechus of besuros tovos for all of Am Yisroel. Our TALMUD Torah sponsors for the month of Cheshvan, Steve and Teri Czinn, in honor of the birth of their sixth grandchild, Devorah Eliana Czinn, and in memory of Dr. Zinn's father, Bunim Tzvi Ben Chaim, Shmuel Robyn Korobkin, as zechus refuah for Rabin's cousin serving in the IDF, Benyamin Chaim Pesach ben Musha Chana, and creation of the Yahrzeit of Rabin's mother, Pesa Mira, Bas Chaim, Bracha. Dr. Moshe and Ann Ellen Gavant, in memory of Dr. Gavant's parents, Yakov, Meir ben Moshe, Leib, and Sheena Bas Abba, and Dr. Behzad and Yemina Soufer of Los Angeles, in the merit of a refuah sheleima for Esther Bracha Bas Chaya. Our week of learning sponsors, Rabbi and Natalie Amirian, in memory of Dr. Neely Esther Bas Malek, Bracha, on the occasion of a Yahrzeit. We hope that in the merit of all of our TALMUD Torah, all of the Neshama Shav and Aliyah, the families in Nechama, all of those who need a refuah, should have one together with Kol Chole Yisrael. Our hostages, Sheleima Hashem, be returned speedily to their mishpachos, and our precious and holy soldiers should be successful. B'chol Maaseh Yadeim, we should be Zoche Meir Hashem to besuros tovos for all of Klal Yisrael. But with that, let us begin. We have a lot to do today, Baruch Hashem. Today's daf is Kuf Lamed Beis 132. We are picking up Am Yisroel on the bottom of Kuf Lamed Aleph 131b, and I believe we left off Ibailuhu, right? 4 lines up from the bottom. Ibailuhu. Bas Eitzavan. Supposed to remember again. We're talking now. All of this now goes ahead, and we're continuing these cases where a person gifts properly. Okay, let me take a step back. Shmuel introduced us to the following idea: that if a person goes ahead and writes all of his property to his wife, Kosev Kol Mechasav Lishto, a person goes in and writes all of his property to his wife. So Shmuel says he doesn't mean it to be a gift. Rather, what does he mean? He means to make her an apotropos. Right? And why is he making her an apotropos? In order that the family should give her kavod, power of the purse strings. He or she who controls the money earns the respect of the entire family. That's the svara over here. So now once Shmuel introduced this concept, so the shayla is, how do we apply it to other people? So what Shmuel is introducing to us is as follows: that even though, remember again, Yakov is married to Avram and Sarah. Avram is married to Sarah. So what does Yakov married to Rachel? Right? Yaakov is married to Rachel. So what does Yakov do? Yakov writes his entire estate over to Rachel. So now, even though again it looks like he's just gifting her the estate, it now turns out that he's not gifting her anything, but rather he's going ahead and making her an apotropos, which now tells us that in certain circumstances, what appears to be a gift is actually not a gift. Rather, what is it? A custodianship. So now that we have this concept, we have to kind of figure out, so which cases do we say this in, and which cases don't we say this in? So here we go. The Gemara says, so Bas Eitzla Banim, V'isha Eitzla Achim. So what happens if, again, in the case of a daughter by sons? If you take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment, the Rashbam says over here, Bas Eitzla Banim, it's about 8 lines up from the bottom. Kevan de'eno roin, Kevan den roin, the choshishin le'inyan nechasim mu'atim, darmin habanos izonu, v'habanim Yisroel psachim, alma dechashin le'yikra debanos, miyikra debanim. So we'll say, so now let's say again, a father goes ahead and writes his estate to his daughters. So what's the halacha? Or isha itzel ha'achin, or he writes his estate to his wife, in a situation where normally his brothers would have inherited him, or the isha itzel b'nei habal, or he writes it to his wife over his sons. Mahu, what's the halacha? Some Ravina, Mishnei Derava, Bekulu lo kana lebarmi ishto arusa v'ishto grusha. In all of these cases, so this is Ravina answering, in all these cases, halacha l'maisa, we assume that the writing of the estate over to these people is meant as a custodianship and is not meant as a gift. According to Ravina, the only cases where we believe there is an active gift being made is where a man writes his estate either to his wife, who's an arusa, or to his ex-wife. Why? Because in those cases, the man has absolutely no reason to worry about the kavod due to these people, right? To an arusa, she's not living in with him. She's not in a household. So he doesn't have to worry about anybody respecting her or not respecting her. To an ex-wife, she's an ex-wife. She's an ex-wife. So in those cases, the gift is viewed as a bona fide gift. In every other case, the quote-unquote gift is going to be viewed as a custodianship. Rav Avira Mishmei de Rava Amar. Rav Avira, in the name of Rava, said, Bekulu Kani. In reality, in all of these cases, we assume that the gift is a bona fide gift. Lebar mea isha itzla achin v'isha itzla b'nei abal. Except ultimately, again, in the case of the wife, where it's given to the wife with the presence of brothers, or given to the wife in the presence of the sons of the husband. Okay, so they have so the Rashram points out over here that they have a little bit of a machlokis in terms of svara. It's just a logical machlokis in terms of when would we say that halacha l'maisa again, the husband's worried about the respect of the rest of the family for this woman, and when is he not? Okay, fine. Top of Kuf Lamed Beis. Bayrav. So we'll say now back to Shmuel, back to original Shmuel. Bayrava. Bebari heich. Okay, so we'll say, so remember again, the assumption that we're working with in the case of Shmuel is that the case of HaKosef in the Chasav L'Ishto, right? That when a man is writing over his estate as a gift to his wife, this is when he is a Shchiv Mira, right? Because remember again, what does Shmuel say over here, right? So Yakov is on his deathbed, and he writes his entire estate over to his wife Rachel. So that's where Shmuel says Yakov's about to die. We view he's not really giving ownership over the property to his wife. Rather, what is he doing? He's making her the apotropos. This way, again, that ensures that when he dies, the kids will continue to respect her. So that svara makes a lot of sense if you're dealing with the case of a shchiv mira. What happens if Yakov did this while he was healthy? Right, while he was a bari. So bebari heich. So the Gemara says b'shchiv mira hu dinei chalei deleshtam and mila. So maybe Shmuel's logic is this only works where? In a case of a shchimira. Why? Because in the case of a shchimira, that's where Yakov is worried that the kids won't listen to her, right? I should say, that's where Yakov is preoccupied with the fact that when he dies, he wants the kids to continue to respect her. Because remember again, what is he concerned about? When he was alive, so the kids respected his wife. Why? Because of him. But now that he's going to die, now he has to ensure that the respect is going to continue. How does he create the respect? By giving his wife, right, his soon-to-be widow, the power of the purse strings. Aval bebari, but again, if he's totally healthy, hakai ihu. Now again, if he's healthy, he doesn't have to worry about the kids respecting her. Why not? Because he's alive. So therefore, I will say, how would we view the gift? How would we view it as a gift? Or how would we view the matana? As a bona fide gift. Right? So again, just one more time. Right? Shmuel introduces us to this concept that if Yakov, as a shchiv mira, writes his entire estate to his wife. Now remember again, take a step back for just a second. Can a shchiv mira gift his entire estate to someone other than his children? Yes. Can anyone gift their entire estate to anyone other than their children? Yes. With a gift, you could do whatever you want. With a gift during your lifetime, you could do whatever you want. The chiddush that Shmuel is introducing to us over here is, it looks strange for a shchiv mira to go ahead and gift his entire estate to his wife and bypass all of the kids. It looks strange. Therefore, Shmuel interprets it to mean, he doesn't mean to give her ownership. He means to give her custodianship. Because what he's worried about is cementing her place or respect to her even when he is no longer here. Okay, so now the shaila becomes, what if he does the same thing, but he's not a shchiv mira? Yakov is Baruch Hashem, he's good and healthy. So just on a random Monday, right? He's totally fine on a random Monday. He goes ahead and gifts his estate to his wife. So do we say, on one hand, when do we say that it's a custodianship? When is it a custodianship? So ultimately, that's only when he's a shchiv mira. But if he's well and healthy, perhaps it's a bona fide gift. O Dilma, or the other possibility is, Bari nami nechole tilishtamen mili mehashta. Or maybe not. Maybe even when he's a bari, the reason he gives it to her is because, again, he wants her to be respected in the family, and obviously giving her control over the money now, even while he's still alive, ensures that they'll respect her now, and if they begin to respect her now, then what? Then they'll certainly respect her even when he dies. Okay, so that's the shaila. So Tashma, let's analyze. Hakosei Pieros Nechasav Liishto. If a person, I will say, so now we're transitioning a little bit to some ksuva cases. So this is interesting. Hakosei Pieros Nechasav Liishto. So a man goes ahead and Right, Peros Nechasav. Take a look at the Rashbam, third line down from the top. Peros Nechasav, Sha'achshav be'en, Inami di'ikni la karka le'peros. So again, so a man now goes ahead. So Yakov is married to Rachel. Yakov says to Rachel, I'm hereby giving you peros, literally, produce. I'm allocating to you produce from my property. So what's the halacha? Gova ksuvasa min karka. She still collects her ksuva from real property. Look at the Rashbam. Gova. Kol ksuvasa min karka de b'shvil matana zu lo machla shibud ksuvasa sha'ala karka. So we'll say, see here what's happening over here? So remember, Yaakov and Rachel get married. Rachel has a ksuva. What does a ksuva do? A ksuva places a lien on all real property. Now Yaakov decides, Rachel, I'm giving you 100 bushels of apples. So what's the halacha? The halacha is very nice. It's a beautiful and generous gift. Does it impact Rachel's ksuva? No. Now, what's at play over here? What's at play over here is as follows. What we're going to be dealing with is there are certain circumstances where, perhaps because a woman receives a gift of significance, that gift causes her to release her ksuva lien on the rest of his property. Remember again, ksuva lien devolves on all real property. It devolves on movable property also. So the shaila is there a circumstance in which a woman receives a gift that is so meaningful to her, the gift itself, that she releases the lien on everything else? That's what's unfolding over here. So again, case number one, Yaakov goes ahead and assigns Rachel produce, very nice, but she still collects her ksuva from real property. Lemechza l'shlish u'revia. Let's say he goes ahead and he assigns her real property, a half of his estate, a third of his estate, a quarter of her estate. Very nice, that's a beautiful gift. And gova ksuvasa min ashar. But she still has a ksuva lien against the rest of the estate, meaning, once again, she does not lift her lien even with this gift. What about kasav kol nechasav leishto? What if he writes his entire estate to his wife? So in this case now, Yaakov has given his entire estate to Rachel. Now watch this. So he's gone ahead and look at the Rashbam for just a moment. Kasav kol, it's almost right across. Kasav kol nechasav leishto v'kasach adayit hashta afilu b'makom banim damar Shmuel lo asa ela apatropa v'achar Kain. So watch this. So now Yaakov writes over his entire estate to Rachel. Okay, beautiful. Then what happens? V'yatsa alav shtarchov. After this magnanimous gift, what happened? So Yitzchak comes along. Right? Yitzchak comes along and says, and produces a loan document that says that Yaakov owes him money. Right? Yaakov owes Yitzchak $100,000. Now, interestingly enough, Yitzchak's debt preceded Yaakov's gift to Rachel. Right? So the timeline of events really now is that Yaakov borrowed money, right? So really there's a lien against the estate, and then Yaakov gifted the entire estate to Rachel. So now at this point, creditor is coming to collect from the estate. So what's the halacha? Rabbi Eliezer says, Tikra matana, so Talmud al-ksuvasa. The truth is, for Rachel, it's actually not a big deal. And I will say, there's another knetch in this. What's the knetch over here? Which is, while it's true that the debt preceded the gift, guess what? The ksuva preceded the debt. So Rabbi Eliezer says, it's not a big deal. The truth is, let Rachel, so to speak, tear up the gift document, which means the gift is going to be voided. So technically speaking, the creditor could seize the property because halacha l'maisa, the debt preceded the gift, but she still has her ksuva. And again, should she need to collect her ksuva, at the end of the day, she could go back and collect it from the creditor because her debt preceded his. Okay. The Chum say no. Tikra ksuvasa, the Talmud amatanasa. No, she doesn't have a ksuva anymore. Now, why doesn't she have a ksuva anymore? Why not? Because the Chum are operating under the idea that when a husband gifts his entire estate to his wife, number one, she acquires it. Number two, it means that she releases her ksuva lien. The ksuva, which again, and the logic being is, she has the property. So she releases that lien. So the Chacham say we've got a problem. She has a problem over here. What's the problem? So she released the ksuva lien when she received the get, when she received the gift, and now it turns out that the debt preceded the gift. So the Chum essentially say, she tore up, literally translated, Tikra Ksuvasa, V'tamod al Matanasa. So she has to tear up the Ksuva because she released her entire Ksuva lien against the estate. So she's left with the gift. The problem is what? There's no gift. Why is there no gift? Because the loan preceded the gift. The Nimtseis Karachas Mikan Umikan. Literally translated, she's bald from here and from there. Which is another way of saying, she's left with nothing. She's left, crazy case. She's left with nothing. Now, interestingly enough, we're not finished this. Now, what this has to do with our sugya, I just want to point out, you can see already where we're holding, right? Because remember, this is a case of an estate that was gifted to a wife. And yet, what do we see over here? What do we see? The wife acquires it, right? Not apotropis. She acquires it. So just keep that point in mind. We're going to circle back to it in just a moment. Vam Rabbi Yehuda Nachtum. Rabbi Yehuda the Nachtum said, Nachtum is a baker or a blacksmith according to some, but Pepashtos a baker. Right? Rabbi Yehuda Nachtum said, So listen to this. This happened. So Rabbi Yehuda says this happened with my niece who was my daughter-in-law, which means that cousins married each other. In other words, so Rabbi Yehuda's son, right, married his cousin. So this literally happened. This case literally happened. The case came before the Chacham. Say first five line. Va'amar tikra ksuvasa v'tamod amatanasa. And again, the Behzad paskin, that when a husband grants his entire estate to his wife, the wife releases her ksuva lien. This is what happens. She releases, which is logical, right? That she releases her ksuva lien. Why? Now, by the way, you'll ask yourself, what's the ramification of releasing your ksuva lien if she owns all the property anyway? So why does it matter? In the event that he acquires future property, ksuva is a crazy lien. Nothing like it exists in the entire world. Because number one, it's a lien that devolves upon real property, movable property, and property that you own at the time of the wedding, and anything that you will ever own for the rest of your life is encumbered by ksuva, which is fascinating. Nothing else like it exists in halacha. So the idea over here is when she releases her lien, obviously she owns all the property now that he owns. He gave her everything. What it means she releases her lien, it means is that even if he acquires more property, there's no lien against it. So here Rabbi Yehuda Nachtum said this literally happened. And the Behzad passed like the Chachamim, that she, upon receiving the estate, she released her lien, her ksuva lien. So all she has is the matana. Now that it turns out that the debt preceded the matana, it turns out that she doesn't have a matana and she doesn't have a ksuva. So effectively, she's left with nothing. Bunim says karachas mikan umikan. Incredible. I'll say, it's so interesting, right? That how fascinating is it? Think about it just a moment, right? A moment ago, this woman, we'll call her Rachel, she had everything, right? She had everything. Her husband had literally granted her everything in the world. And now again, literally a moment later, she has nothing. When it says karachas mikan umikan, we both say tremendous Musha Chana. Here lies the difference between gashmios and ruchnios. Gashmios, there is a concept that a person could lose everything. In the world of gashmios, in the material world, you could have everything in one moment and have nothing in the next moment. It's possible. That is not possible in the world of ruchnios. In the world of ruchnios, right, there's no such thing as being left with nothing. Now, as a result of our mistakes, sometimes I could divest myself of much holiness and spirituality. But there is no such thing as the account balance ever going to zero. Right? In gashmios, the account balance could absolutely go to zero. In ruchnios, impossible, which is such a tremendous Musha Chana for the things we need to work hard for in life. Obviously, we need to work hard for our gashmios, because we all want to be happy and healthy and successful and materially confident as well. But it's just important to understand that those things, they could come and they could go. But we have to make sure that however hard we're working for our gashmios, we have to make sure that we are working just as hard, if not harder, for our ruchnios. Because the ruchnios, that's the stuff you hold on to. That's the stuff you never lose. That's the stuff you're there for all eternity. So I will say it's a good metric about how I'm living my life. Am I working as hard for my ruchnios as I am for my gashmios? And that doesn't have to be in terms of time, because I think inevitably we end up spending more time working for our gashmios than we do for our ruchnios. But intensity of time, at least the time that I am spending in my ruchnios, is that time at least as intense and at least as dedicated as my time on my Gashmius. Incredible Gemara. Taima, both says second wide line. Taima di Yatzal of Shtarchov. Now, interestingly enough, the reason why ultimately, again, Rachel in this case, woman in this case, loses everything is because there was a debt which pre-existed her matana. But ultimately, again, let's say there was never a debt. I will say, so then what happened? If there was never a debt, then what would be the halacha? Kanya. She would have acquired the estate. So we'll say, so here we have a full gift of an estate. The husband is gifting his entire estate to his wife. And the only reason there's a problem over here is because there was a debt that occurred before the gift. But had there not been a debt before the gift, then what would be the halacha? Rachel would be the proud owner of the entire estate. The Gemara says, interesting. Obemai. So when is this gift taking place? If Yakov was the Shchiv Mira and made the gift, that can't be, because Shmuel said, right? That Shmuel what did Shmuel say? A man who gifts his entire estate to his wife while he is a Shchiv Mira, what's his intention? It's not to give her ownership. Rather, what is it? Apotropos. So we'll say, so watch this. So now I've got Shmuel saying a deathbed gift doesn't convey ownership, just conveys custodianship. But yet I clearly have a whole brayso over here that says that a full conveyance of an estate works. So what's the case? Ela, the Gemara says, Elalav bibari. This must be talking about a case where halacha l'meisa, Yakov went ahead and granted the estate to his wife while Yakov was totally healthy. What do you see from here? That a gift given when Yakov is healthy to his wife is a bona fide gift. It's a gift. When he's an apotropos, his intention is only to go to make her. When he's a shchiv mira, when he's on his deathbed, then obviously his intention is to make her an apotropos because he wants to cement her position of importance and prominence in the family. He wants everyone to respect her. How is everyone going to respect her? Not because of her midos, but because of her money. Right? So therefore, again, which is the way it works in the world, right? Right? So we'll say, so halacha l'maisa. So when he gives it to her as a shchiv mira, it's to make her an apotropos. But when he gives it to her as a bari, then halacha l'maisa, that is to go ahead and give her a complete gift. The Christian says maybe not. The whole shchiv mira, maybe not. Maybe it's actually, maybe this case is also as a shchiv mira. Maybe that's the case here also. For Rav Avira mukila b'kulu, Ravina mukila be'ishto arusa. And both remember again, going back to the end of Amud Beis where we started from today, both Rav Avira and Ravina have exceptions to Shmuel's rule. Right? Remember again, Shmuel's concept that when a shchiv mira grants his wife a gift of the estate, Shmuel says he's not giving her ownership. He's giving her custodianship in order to cement her place of respect within the family. But yet, remember again, I will say Rav Avira and Ravina both came along and said there are exceptions to this rule. They listed their exceptions. So the Gemara said maybe we're talking about a shemira, and it's just talking about the exceptions of Rav Avira and the exceptions of Ravina. Rav Avira mukila b'kulu. So Rav Avira had his whole exception, right? In other words, all of his cases, and Ravina would set it up as a case of ishta arusa or ishta grusha. In those cases, he felt, right, if you grant the estate to your arusa or to your ex-wife, you're not interested in her place of respect in the family. It's rather just a bona fide gift. Okay. So therefore, I will say. So therefore, the Gemara suggests maybe it's not a raya. So therefore, we're still up to our original question, right? Rava's question. Let's assume for a moment that we are accepting the premise of Shmuel, right? Let's work on that. Let's work on that assumption that we accept Shmuel halacha l'maisa, and therefore, again, one more time, Yakov is on his deathbed. Gifts his entire estate to his wife Rachel. Shmuel says, is it a gift? Is it a gift? No. Rather, what is it? Custodianship. Why is he giving her custodianship? Because he wants the family to respect her. Fine. Rava says, what if Yakov did the same thing, but he's not a shchiv mira? He's totally healthy. So we brought a complex proof that we thought proved the fact that if he does it when he's healthy, it's a bona fide gift. It turns out the proof is not really a solid proof. Okay, so let's go back. So Amar Rabbi Yosef, Amar Yomi, Amar Rav Nachman, halacha. What is halacha? And now the Gemara is commenting on the brayso, which was the case of Yakov who gifted his estate to Rachel, and then after he gifted the estate, it turns out that Yaakov owed money to Yitzchak. The creditor comes along. So the shaila now is, obviously Rachel is going to have to give up the property to the creditor, but does she have a ksuva? So the Gemara says, Rav Nachman says, Alocha tikra ksuvasa, v'tamol amatanasa, v'dim says karachas mikan umikan. Okay, so we'll say this is very exciting. So now, although we haven't answered Rava's question, now we're kind of like knee deep in the brisa. Shabbos says, let's go back to this creditor case for just a moment. Yakov went ahead and gifted his entire estate to Rachel. Now what happens? Now creditor comes along and seizes the estate. So Rav Nachman says, you pass like the Chacham. What do the Chacham say? What do the Chacham say? The Chacham say Rachel has nothing. Now why does Rachel have nothing? She doesn't have the gift. Why doesn't she have the gift? Why not? Because remember again, the debt preceded the gift. But she also doesn't have a ksuva. Why not? Because upon receiving the gift of the estate, she released her lien against the estate. So she has nothing. So effectively, she's left with nothing. That's how he paskin. The Meir says, now 1 second. The Meir, Azur of Nachman Basra Umdina. So we'll say, is this to say that Rav Nachman doesn't hold of Umdina? Now we'll say, now what does Umdina mean? Umdina means a mindset. Now we'll say, now, the Pashtos, what would the mindset in this case be? The mindset would be, when Rachel gets this gift, let's assume that she lifts her lien against the estate for her ksuva. Why does she lift her ksuva lien? Why? Because she's getting a gift. And if someone were to tell her, Rachel, the gift is not really going to be a gift because the creditor is going to come along and take it, then what would she have done? Not lifted her lien. That's called umdina. Umdina means, I will say, that transactions are also predicated upon how normal people act and behave. For example, watch this. So the Gemara says, Fatanya, we learned. Listen to this. Right? Yakov had a son, Ruvain. And Ruvain went overseas. And Nebuch, so Yakov heard that his son Ruvain died. So Ruvain was the only child. So what did Yakov do? Yakov went ahead and assigned his estate to other people. And afterwards it turns out, fake news, and Ruvain is alive. Right, so now what's the halacha? So the Gemara says, Tanakama says the matana is still matana. It was a gift. Rabbi Shimon and Menashe Omer, no, what are you talking about? Matana. Of course it's not a matana. Because we will say why? Because you look at this transaction and it is clear. Why did Yakov grant the estate to other people? Why? He thought his son was dead. Baruch turns out his son is not dead. How do you know his son was alive? Would have never. In other words, we will say in certain circumstances we understand that it is a certain set of facts that motivate a person to act in a certain way. Therefore, when it turns out that that set of facts is wrong, that undermines the effectiveness of the entire transaction. That's called umdina. So in this case over here, it's clear. Yaakov only granted the estate to other people because he thought Reuben was dead. Reuben is not dead, so therefore the matana is void. So therefore, what the Gemara says, Rav Nachman says, halach Rav Shimon Menashe. Rav Nachman says, halach Rav Shimon Menashe. So Rav Nachman holds of umdina. So 1 second. So we'll say, let's go back. Yaakov went ahead and granted his estate to Rachel. Right? So now, again, Rachel received the gift. She's very excited. She owns all the property. So the Pashtos, she released her lien against the estate. 2 days later, creditor comes along and says, your husband owes you $1 million. I'm taking the estate in payment. So we'll say, so obviously, again, she's going to have to give back the property. So again, so now what do we say? We should say, well, of course, she does not agree. So in other words, had she known that there was a creditor, she would have never lifted her lien against the estate. So she should still have her ksuva lien. That's called umdina. Yet Rav Nachman says she doesn't, but yet Rav Nachman is on record as saying that she has umdina. So we'll say, watch this. This is incredible. This is wild. Shiny Hassam. This case is different. Why does Rachel lift her lien against the estate? This is incredible. When Rachel receives the gift from Yakov, why is she willing to lift her lien against the estate? Get ready for this. It is beneficial for her, we'll say. Word will get out that Yakov assigned his entire estate to Rachel. There is a benefit to that call. There's a benefit. Look, take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. The Rashbam says, Umishani, it's like about 12 lines up from the bottom. Umishani, hachanami basar umdina, azor nachman, the karma tikra ksubasa, the nechli bahach matana, mishum the tepok kala, de'ihi mehemna v'chashuva gabe baila. And I will say, it's not normal for a husband to assign, to gift his entire estate to his wife, right? During his lifetime. That's not the normal course of events. When a husband does that, what does that show? That shows that his wife is very important in his eyes. So we'll say, so that can have a lot of other societal ramifications, right? And is a major, major thing. So we'll say, because of the hana that she receives, because of boosted standing, ultimately, she's willing to forgive her ksuva lien on the estate, even though what? It is possible that this could boomerang back in a negative set of circumstances. In other words, she knows that there's the possibility that she may be left with nothing, but she's still willing to release her claim on the estate because of the incredible chashivos, the incredible importance that this incredible act ascribes to her. So we'll say, by the way, it's actually a fascinating Gemara. You hear what's happening over here? That because this act shows the importance in which her husband holds her, right? Shows the esteem in which her husband holds her, she's willing to release her current and any future ksuva claim against the estate. It's fascinating. Fascinating. So the Gemara said, therefore, again, I will say, therefore, yes. So normally, Rav Nachman absolutely holds of Omdina, but this case is a different kind of case. Tanan Hasam. Let's go back there. Hakosev nechasav labanav akasav leishta karka choshu. He'll say it's also a fascinating dynamic in marriage. That how important it is that a wife understand the esteem in which her husband holds her. I will say this is one of the most important yisodos in marriage, is that a wife should absolutely and unequivocally feel that she is the center of her husband's universe. That there is nothing more important to her husband than her. And that he would move heaven and earth for her any moment, any day of the week, any time. If a person could make his wife, if a man could make his wife feel like, in other words, we know this, you could buy whatever you want, and you could, anniversary presents and birth, don't get me wrong, those are Yahrzeit Vayafa, right? But Lamaisa, all of us know, those are not the things that make beautiful and harmonious marriage. Those are not the things. It's a wife feeling the love, and a wife feeling, again, the commitment, and a wife feeling the esteem and the kavod and the respect and the honor and the pedestal that her husband puts her on. If a woman feels that she is the center of her husband's universe, mamish, it is the key to successful shalom bayis. Without it, you could do all the chores and you could buy all the gifts and you could do this and you could drive all the carpools and all the other things. And again, mechanistically, everything works beautifully. But the beautiful shalom bayis is not there. And again, I will say it's incredible. A woman will lift her lien on the ksuva, which is her financial security, because of the esteem in which her husband holds her. It's fascinating. And the Gemara goes back to Tanan Hasam. Hakosev nechasav libanov v'kasav liishto karka kolshu. So we'll say a person goes ahead, man writes his estate to his son, and writes a particular piece of karka, a small piece of land for his wife. So what's the halacha? Ibda ksuva. So she's lost her ksuva. Now, she's lost her ksuva means she lifts her ksuva lien. So what does that mean? Mishum b'kasav lekarka kolshu ibda ksuvasa. Because he granted her a small piece of land, she lost her ksuva. That doesn't make any sense. Amarav b'mezaki lahen al yada. Now, also the case over here is where, she gives him the handkerchief for the kinyan sudar to give over the property to the kids. So she's involved in the kinyan. So when she's involved with the kinyan, I will say, so in other words, what's happening over here, the Gemara is assuming what's happening over here is, she understands what's occurring over here, the kids are getting the estate, she's getting this parcel of land, and halacha l'maisa, she understands this represents her ksuva. And she's lifting her lien from everything else. And since she's participatory in the kinyan, it shows her acquiescence. Okay? Shmuel says, or Shmuel says, she's present, right? She's present. Now, by the way, I just want to point out something very important that Rashbam points out over here. If you take a look, the Rashbam is about 10 lines up from the bottom. Ibduk Suvasa. What does it mean that she's lost her ksuva? What it means is, halacha l'maisa, she lifts her lien on any other current property. the Rashbam points out is what she doesn't lift her lien on is any property that he may acquire in the future. In other words, so Yakov is currently giving away his estate. So he's giving Rachel one parcel of land and giving everything else to the boys. So now the halacha is, Ibduk Suvasa, she has essentially removed her lien on any of the property going to the sons. What she doesn't lift, again, but the Rashbam says, should Yaakov acquire more property in the future, her lien, her ksuva lien, would devolve upon that property. Now the Gemara is saying, why is that? So possibility one, according to Rav, she's participatory in the kinyan. Possibility two, according to Shmuel, this entire division is happening in her presence, and she doesn't object. She doesn't object. So the fact that she doesn't object ultimately indicates to us that also silence is acquiescence. Shtika koda. Rabbi Yossi bar Rechina Omer ba'Omer la tali karka zu b'ksuva sayich. Rabbi Yossi bar Rechina says is that the husband, Yakov, is explicit. And what does Yakov say? I'm giving this property to my sons and take this parcel as your ksuva. And she doesn't object. So we'll say, so three possibilities as to why this works. Either A, because she's participating in the kinyan. Possibility B, she's present while all this is happening and doesn't object. Or possibility C is that he is explicit in what it is that is happening over here. Take this property as your ksuva, and therefore by definition release your claim on the rest. On the base, umekule ksuva shanukan. I will say, this is one of the kulas, one of the leniencies of ksuva. How so? Take a look at the top Rashbam. Top Rashbam on Koflam and Beis on Beis 132b. Top Rashbam. Umikulik suva shanukan akulukai the Shabbat Lechovin lo abdu bekach achor feirush anu mochun hashibot shalom lechasim alalu. Avak suva hekilu kidi kilu gaba nami leinyan zibura. So what is interesting? What does it mean? This is a kula. Generally, if you have a lien against something, the only way to relinquish the lien is to explicitly say, "Hi, I'm relinquishing the lien." If you don't explicitly relinquish it, then halacha l'maisa, it's there. Ksuva is different. Ksuva is a little bit of a kula. Chazal instituted this kula that a woman could go ahead and essentially relinquish her lien, even circumstantially. Right? For example, participating in the kinyan, right? That gives other people the property. Or being present during the kinyan and not saying anything. Or in this case over here, the husband making the declarative statement, you take possession of this land. This will be your ksuva land, and she takes possession of it, which by definition causes her to release her lien on everything else. So this is a unique hula by ksuva. So Tanan, let's go back to Tanan. Rabbi Yossi says, in kibla alel afa pishlo kasav la ab ksuva. So Rabbi Yossi says, if she accepted this upon herself, kibla alel. Now, the Rashbam says, Kibla la shemachla lahem ashibud b'feirush. Verbal acceptance. So if she did a verbal acceptance, she said, I accept this land as security for my ksuva, which by definition means she's lifting her lien on everything else. So the Tanai B'Yossi Kibla ala, if she verbally accepted it, afa pishlo kasavla, even though he did not write anything in a document, abda ksuvasa. Ultimately, again, when we say abda ksuvasa, what does it mean abda ksuvasa? It means she no longer has a lien on the rest of the estate's property. Nichlal the Tanakama savar ksiva v'kabal labai. Supposed to say, sounds like according to the Tanakama that not only do you need verbal acceptance, but you need a document as well. So the Gemara says v'chi tema kul Rabbi Yossi. Maybe the whole thing reflects the view of Rabbi Yossi. V'atanya am Rabbi Yehuda im masai. A masai shahaisa sham the kibla ala. Rabbi Yehuda says, when does this work? When does what work? When does, in other words, the husband, Yakov, is giving over his estate to his sons, and he's assigning a particular parcel of land to Rachel, his wife. And now we want to say that parcel of land should be for a ksuva. When does that work? A masai, shahaisa sham, v'kibla. If she was present, and she verbally accepted. Aval haisa sham v'lo kibla, but even if she was present, but did not actively accept, or kibla aleha, v'lo haisa sham, or she verbally accepted, but was not present, lo of the ksuvasa. She has not, quote unquote, lost her ksuva, which sounds like, again, in order for this to work, in order for what to work, assignment of one parcel of land to satisfy a ksuva obligation, the lifting of the ksuva lien from all other properties, number one, she has to be present for the transaction when the property is being doled out, and number two, there must be some level of verbal acceptance. Tiyufta, the kulu tiyufta, so this refutes all the other positions and indeed refutation. So I will say, so here's what's interesting. So in other words, okay, this is machlok, not the mechanics of it. In other words, Does something have to be in writing? Does she have to be participatory in the kinyan? Is it just enough for her to be there physically and verbally accepted? Point over here is, it works. It works. That a man could go ahead and decide to assign the bulk of his estate to his kids, assign one parcel of land to his wife, and tell her essentially, this is for your ksuva. And if she accepts it, again, machlokes as to how acceptance manifests itself. But if she accepts it, that's her ksuva, and she has lifted her lien from everything else. Incredible. Amar Rav Nachman, Harav, Shmuel, Harav Yosef Chanina. So as obviously we see all these different opinions as to how this works. Right? So there's the opinion of Rav, there's the opinion of Shmuel's opinion, Rabbi Yosef Chanina. Mar Yisroel. Who do you hold like? Amar Le Shani Omer, Kevan Shasa Shutaf Bein Habanim of the Ksuvasa. I hold that once she is a partner in the transaction along with the sons, ultimately, again, she has lost the rest of her ksuvim. Now, what does that mean again? Wide lines in the Rashbam, 5 lines down. Shutaf bein habanim, shekasav la nami karka kol shehu, machla. Ultimately, again, once, so we'll say, this is the case we're talking about, right? Yakov is dividing up his estate. Once he goes ahead and grants her a piece of land, together with the sons. So the sons are getting land, Rachel's getting land, everybody's getting land. Once that happens, she is mochel. She mochelas the rest of her ksuva lien against the estate. Look at the Rashbam. So again, Shutav ben Abanim, Shekasav lanami karka kolshu. He's writing for her a piece of property. Machla v'lo matzrechina l'chol hanach kohos. Da amri hanach amaray la'el. Ela b'ksiva ba'alma abdik Rabbi Yossi the sagili b'chada o kabbalah o ksiva. Shabbos says, listen to this. So remember again, this is Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman says like this: I hold the following. Once this transaction is happening, and she is part of the transaction, meaning she's receiving a piece of land, however she's receiving it. In other words, choose one of the above. She's participatory in the kinyan, or she's present, or it's written down in a document, or she verbally accepts. It doesn't really matter how, as long as there's some way that is clear that she is acquiescing to this. The act of receiving a parcel of land alongside the sons causes her to lift her ksuva lien from the rest of the estate. Now we'll say, what's driving all of this? Itmar nami. So Am Yosef, Am Yomi, Am Nachman, Kevan Shasa, Shutaf Ben Abanim of the ksuvasa. Now we'll say, what's driving all of this? As you think to yourself, why would she do this? Right? Why is it that halacha l'maisa she would lift her lien from the entire estate because of a small parcel of property that she's receiving? Why would she do this? So remember again, it goes back to the svara that we saw on Amud Aleph. So we'll say, so understand, it was not a common theme. It was not a common thing for a man to go ahead and convey ownership of property to his wife. Again, this is reflecting a societal norm. It was not the common thing. When a man did that, again, I would say, it sounds strange to us because we live in different times. This is a societally reflected Gemara. When a man assigned ownership of property to his wife during their marriage, that was big stuff. And that showed a level of chashivos, the level of esteem that the husband held his wife. Because that was such a chashav, a concept, therefore again the wife, that covet, ultimately again was enough of a hana for her to release her claim, or ksuva claim on the rest of the estate. That covet that her husband gave her, that covet was enough for her to release her ksuva claim on the rest of the estate. That's what's driving all of this. And I will say, this is actually halacha l'maisa, that if a husband literally again grants his wife ownership over property, and again, obviously this is working where the husband has to be explicit. He's saying, this is your ksuva. Now, I want to be clear. Does she have a choice in this? Of course. She could say no. Or just to be clear, she could say no. She could say, thank you, I appreciate the gift. Thank you so much. Right? But no thank you. No thank you. You keep the little parcel. I'll keep my lien. So she doesn't have to accept this. But if she does accept it, it's because she recognizes the covet that it represents, and if, in lieu of for the hana of the covet, she releases her lien against the rest of the estate. Incredible. So Gemara goes right to Bari Rava, Bebari Heich. So what about, how do we deal with this case in a case of a husband who is healthy? Right now, take a look at the Rashbam for just a moment. It's about 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, about 12 lines down in the wide lines. So Bebari Heich. So Bari Shekasav Nechasav Labana Vakasali Ishakak. So by the way, before we go on, remember, let's tie up the loose end by Rava. Right? By Rava, remember, so we have Shmuel. Shmuel said that halacha l'maisa, if a shchiv mira goes ahead and grants his wife, gifts his wife the entire estate, then what's the halacha? It's not a gift. Rather, what is it? A custodianship, apotropos. That is how he passes halacha l'maisa. What happens if he gifted his wife his entire estate ultimately during his lifetime? Then what is that? So both say, that is a gift. That is a gift. But it is a gift that comes with a release of the ksuva claim. So when a husband grants his wife the estate, she releases her ksuva claim, which then means that halacha l'maisa, if after giving her the gift, a creditor shows up whose debt precedes the matana, then what's the halacha? Rachel is out. Right? She doesn't have her ksuva, and she doesn't have the gift. So again, that's Rava. We pass like the Chacham in Rava. Now the Gemara is going to ask a different question. So we'll say, so now we're on a third different kind of case. What's this third case? This third case is a man, Yakov, is dividing up his estate. He's gifting away property to his sons and to his wife. He's giving his sons something, and he's giving his wife a small parcel. And we just got finished saying that halacha l'maisa, in the zechus of even receiving the small parcel for a ksuva, she releases her claim, on everything else. Now the assumption the Gemara was making is, when is Yakov doing this? When is Yakov doing all this stuff? When is the shchiv mira? Because as we'll say, that's the most logical. Because what is Yakov going to do if he's totally healthy and giving away his entire estate? What is he going to live on? So therefore, it makes the most sense to assume that these cases are all talking about a shchiv mira. He's on his deathbed. He's dividing up his assets he's giving his kids X, and he's giving his wife a small parcel. And he says to his wife, this is for your ksuva. She accepts it. And when she accepts it, halacha l'maisa, this is for her ksuva. She releases her claim on everything else. And now, what happens if Yakov did this when he was healthy? So Yaakov's not a shchimira. And what does he do? He goes ahead and he writes a property to his son, and he gives his wife a piece of property as well. Right? And he makes her a partner alongside the sons, right, in the division of the assets. So what's the halacha? So miyamina b'shchimira hu diyada the less lay v'kamachla. So ultimately, it's supposed to say, here's the shayla. Remember again what I said before? The Rashbam says, in this case over here, where husband is dividing up his estate, let's say the first case, shchimira, he's dividing up his estate, right? Or I should say, stam, he's dividing up his estate. And he gives her a piece of property, gives his son property, she gets his ksuva property. So the halacha is she releases her claim against the estate for the ksuva. Now remember again, technically speaking, were he to acquire more property, what would happen? The lien would devolve upon that new property. She's only releasing her claim for what is now, not in the future. So watch this. So the Gemara says, let's say he does this whole thing, he divides up his estate, he gives some to his wife, gives some to the kids, but he's totally healthy. So now what's the halacha? So the Gemara says, maybe it's only the case of shchimira, where again, when the wife receives the property from her husband, the shchimira, what does she know? He's not acquiring any more property, right? That's it. He's done, right? This is the end of the journey. So therefore, again, when she receives this parcel, she knows that's for a ksuva, and she releases any claim. Aval bebari, maybe with a husband who's well, the Gemara says, Savra, hadakani. She figures like this, you know what? Sure, I'll release my claim upon any of the property that currently exists. In other words, whatever is being given to the kids, okay, I don't have any claim on that. But I'm not releasing my claim on future property. My husband's a bari, let him go outside, he's going to work still. He'll acquire more property, so I'm not releasing my claim on that. First white line, O Dilma hashta miha lesle. On the other hand, maybe not. Maybe we say, but yeah, at the end of the day, not that. At the end of the day, as we look at it right now, the husband has no more property. So and because he has no more property, therefore again, she's releasing her ksuva claim in entirety. First, the Gemara says, teku. Okay, so that's a case we're not sure about. Next, Hahuda Amar Lahu. So listen to this case. Well, it's a very interesting case as well. Huda Amar Lahu, Palga Libras, Upalga Libras, Vitilsa Leisas, the Peri. So listen to this case. A man is dividing up his estate. And what they say? Well, 1/3 to go to my daughter, and 1/3 to go to another daughter, and 1/3 to my wife in produce. You see what's happening over here? He's not giving the wife real property. He's giving her produce. So what's the halacha? So Igla Rav Nachman L'Sura. So the shayla, of course, becomes, what's the status of this case? Ekel Rav Nachman Surah. So Rav Nachman went to Surah. Ol ligabe Rav Chisda. Amarle ki I gavna mai. What is the halacha in a case like this? In other words, we'll say, what we're asking over here is, does she forgive her ksuva for this? Like, is this a case of assignment of property where she'll forgive her ksuva or not? So Amarle hakem Shmuel afilu lo hiknala ela dekel echad leperosav ibdu ksuvasa. So the halacha is, even if he assigns her one palm tree, and I will say again, don't just so you understand, this process cannot occur against her will. But let's say even if he gave her one palm tree, right, one palm tree, and she accepted it, that means she accepts this property for her ksuva and releases her claim on everything else. So Amarle, he said to him, one second, Amarle Eimer Damar Shmuel Hasam Da'akni Levagufa Da'ara. Yeah, that's talking about where he's giving her a palm tree. A palm tree is karka. Hacha Peiruhu. Amarla. Says, I'm sorry. Peiruhu. In this case, you also remember again, in this case, the husband is not giving his wife real property. What is he giving her? Produce. So is produce enough to cause her to lift her ksuvalin? To which is, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. Amarle metaltli ka'amrit. You're talking about metaltli vadai lo ka'amina. So I'll say this is a very interesting qualification of our previous discussion. This concept of a woman receiving property and receiving that property for her ksuva and thereby releasing her claim on the rest of the estate for the property that she received only applies when she receives real property. It does not apply when she receives metaltalin, no matter how much metaltalin. So this is really fascinating. So therefore, in this case over here, where husband assigns his wife peiros, beautiful. I both say, is it a gift? Is it a bona fide gift? Absolutely. Has she released her ksuva claim on the rest of the estate? Absolutely not. So a very important qualification. Okay, let's go a little bit weiter. Huda amar lahu, another case. Huda amar lahu, tilsa lebras, v'tilsa le'isas. So I'll say in this case over here, so the man is dividing his estate. He gives 1/3 to daughter A, 1/3 to daughter B, and 1/3 to wife. 1/3 to wife. So what's the halacha? Shchiva chad bibanse. Sorry, one of the daughters passed away. So what's the halacha? Sabarat papi lemeimar lo shakla ela tilsa. So we'll say, so now, here's what's interesting. So what is the wife entitled to? So by Pashtus, the wife is only entitled to the 1/3 that was assigned to her. In other words, the assumption over here is she only gets the 1/3 that was assigned to her, and she has no. So see what's happened over here? Yakov has 2 daughters and a wife, right? So what did he do? 1/3 goes to daughter A, 1/3 goes to daughter B, and 1/3 goes to wife. Now, what do we say? Now, this is he's assigning a real property. What happens when a husband assigns real property to his wife? What happens? Right? Her ksuva claim devolves upon that piece and is lifted from everything else. In this case now over here, one daughter died, which means now 1/3 of the property goes back into the estate pool. So what's the shayla? Does the wife have a claim on that third? We'll stop over. We'll pick up an oral. We'll pick up with this case in Meir tomorrow. What a daf. What a daf, everyone. I'm sorry? It'll be all right. I got this.